Students, hello my lovely students of literature, welcome back to another exciting class. Welcome back to another exciting literature class. Today's class we're going to be looking at a very interesting dramatic text titled FENCES by August Wilson. FENCES by August Wilson. Behavioral objectives. By the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to understand the background of the dramatist, the background of the setting, as well as the plot summary. So now we're going to be looking at the background of the dramatist. August Wilson was named Frederick August Kittel when he was born to a German father and an African-American mother in 1945. Wilson was born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. FENCES was Wilson's second play to go to Broadway and won him the 1987 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. Wilson won the Pulitzer Prize for Drama again in 1990 for his play The Piano Lessons. So this is the brief background of the dramatist August Wilson. So we'll be looking at the background and setting of the play. August Wilson's most renowned work, FENCES, explores the life and relationship of the Maxim family. This moving drama was written in 1983 and earned Wilson his first Pulitzer Prize. FENCES is part of August Wilson Pittsburgh Circle, a collection of 10 plays. Each drama explores a different decade in the 20th century, and each examines the lives and struggles of African Americans. The setting is in America in the 1950s, the period when racism affects the lives of African American society during that period. Now, we're going to be doing the act summary. But before that, we're going to do a little plot analysis. The story revolves around the crisis in Troy Maxim's family, how members of the family relate with each other, creation of barriers through misunderstanding, as well as the breaking of bonds through betrayal. Now, we're going to be doing the summary of Act 1. The summary of Act 1. Scene 1. We see the play introducing the central character Troy Maxim and his longtime friend and colleague Bono. So in Act 1, the play starts on a Friday evening. Troy, a 53-year-old black man, and his longtime friend Jean Bono are having a drink on Troy's porch. Both of them are co-workers in the sanitation department, and Bono looks up to Troy. Both of them talk about a meeting Troy recently had with their boss, Mr. Rand. During the meeting, Troy files a complaint asking why African American workers are only allowed to do the heavy lifting, whereas white people are allowed to be garbage truck drivers. This worries Bono, who thinks that Troy might get fired, but Troy is not overly concerned. They then converse about a woman, Alberta, whom they met in a bar they usually hang out in. Bono is convinced that Troy is going to follow her despite the fact that he is married, but Troy denies it. Troy's wife, Rose, meets them on the porch and they talk about how they met and have a discussion about where to shop. Although Rose likes the supermarket because the prices are cheaper, Troy refers to the corner store as people there already know him and treat him well. They then talk about their son Corey, who just got a job at the A&P supermarket. Troy is happy, but his emotion changes when Rose tells him that a football recruiter wants to visit their house in hopes of recruiting Corey to play football for college. Troy does not even want Corey to focus on football because of his own past. Although Troy is a great football player in his youth, he never received the chance to be a part of the major league. Even after Rose and Bono tried to convince him that things are not the way they were, Troy's mind remains unchanged. Corey would not follow in the path of sports. After, we see Troy, Rose, and Bono talking about death, where they are analyzing death and Troy makes them feel that death does not scare him anymore. Suddenly, out of nowhere, we see Leon, Troy's 34-year-old son from his previous wife, coming into the compound. Troy explains that Leon only comes to him when he needs money, as he is unable to get a decent job and has never wanted to do manual labor. Leon's dreams lie with the field of music, and he says that he will never give up on his dream, ever. Something that separates him from Troy. Troy doesn't believe in that. Rose gives Leon the money he needs and then he leaves. After he leaves, Troy complains about the fact that his eldest son doesn't have any sense of responsibility. And then we're looking at Scene 2 of Act 1. Scene 2 of Act 1. In this scene, it's now morning and Rose hangs her laundry while singing a song about Jesus building a fence around her for the sake of her protection. And then Troy approaches her and they talk about numbers of informal lottery, to which Troy disagrees as he thinks it is not worth his money. Rose then tells Troy that Corey isn't home, which angers him as Corey has previously agreed to help him build a fence that he has promised Rose. His anger causes him to label Corey as a boy scared of work. Hearing this, Rose comes to Corey's defense, saying that Troy is only angry because he's feeling anxious about losing his job. Now, we are now introduced to Gabriel, Troy's younger brother. Gabriel is Troy's younger brother. Recently, he moved out of their family house and into an apartment instead, whose landlady is called Miss Pearl. Though Gabriel is pleased with how independent he has become, he thinks that Troy is mad at him, but Troy tells him that he is not mad at him. As Rose bakes biscuits for the brothers, Gabriel tells Troy that he has seen Troy's name in a biblical book called St. Peter's, which foreshadows Troy's death, but breakfast is served. But before then, Gabriel leaves while singing a song about judgment. Rose now tells Troy that Gabriel's eating pattern worries her as she believes that he is not eating well. Upon hearing this, Troy thinks Rose is implying that Gabriel should be put in an institution, to which Troy disapproves. Troy then tells a story about how Gabriel was given $3,000 by the Japanese government when he suffered a brain injury, and that Troy had used the money to buy a house, which they share with Gabriel. Troy feels guilty about this, but he has no other choice because it's the only way he could get a house. Rose assures him that he has done the right thing. After, Troy now tells Rose that he wants to go to the bar and watch a ball game. The bar. Don't forget the bar. The same bar that Alberta works in. Rose notices that he has been going out every Saturday for quite some time and asks him about the progress of the fence that he is building. He keeps going out on Saturday to a particular bar, and that's the same bar that Alberta works in. So now we're going to be looking at the scene 3. Scene 3, the argument between Corey and his father Troy on his choice of career, baseball. Here we see that when Corey comes home, Rose immediately tells him that Troy is angry at him because he did not help Troy build the fence. Corey helps Rose in doing the house chores and they have a short conversation about Corey's recruiter. Suddenly, we now see that Troy comes home and starts flirting with Rose, to which Rose disagrees with. As Corey now enters, Troy does the chores as well, telling Corey to call him sir. Corey then says he wants to have a television, but the request is met with Troy lecturing him about responsibility and money. They then build the fence together and Troy agrees to pay half the price of the television. And then they're having discussions about how African Americans have never been given the same opportunities as the white people. As they are talking, Corey brings up the college recruiter. This is where we now hear that Corey tells Troy that he has been working at the A&P, and Troy is very angry that he should focus on trade. He should focus on trade instead of focusing on baseball, that baseball will not get him anywhere. And then Rose overhears the conversation and asks why Troy does not let Corey be a part of the baseball team. She believes that it's because of Troy's bad history with sports, because he believes that being a black man prevented him from actualizing his dream as a pro baseball player. Although things have changed, Troy doesn't want to see these changes. He always believes that the black will always be subdued, and because of that, Corey should not even go there in the first place. And then we are introduced to scene 4. Scene 4, where we see that Troy has been promoted. 2 weeks later, on a Friday night, Corey sneaks out to play ball, and then we are seeing the promotion of Troy to the first sanitation driver of Black American descent. That is a very, very wonderful achievement for Troy, the first black man to become a truck driver. And then we also learn the life history. Here we see that Bono tells Leon about Troy's recent promotion, and then we see the monies and everything exchange of monies and all that. So Gabriel now pays them a visit, and Gabriel is talking about chasing hellhounds and waiting for the time St. Peter will open the gates for Troy. And then we are seeing that Rose is asking Troy to sign Corey's recruitment paper, but Troy refuses. And Troy is saying that he's angry because Corey lied to him that if he continues his disobedient behavior, he will just move out. And then Leon is even happy that his brother has continued to play baseball. He is very happy. And then it is at this moment that we learn about the life history of Troy and his love for baseball. We recall that when he was 14, he left home due to a fight he had with his father. After settling in the city, he met Leon's mother, and to support his own family, he had no other choice but to steal. One time, he even decided to rob a guy, but suffered the unfortunate fate of getting shot. And while he got shot, Troy ended up killing the man by stabbing him with a knife. And this was what made Troy go into prison for 15 years. And it was in prison he met Bono, and he also learned to play baseball. When he came out of prison, he promised himself that he would never steal but become a better person, and his two priorities would be Rose and baseball. But even worse, Bono's father was even the same thing. So we're listening to the life story of Troy and his love for baseball, but because of his African American descent, so many things were taken away from him. He wasn't able to actualize that dream. And then we now see that Corey returns home infuriated, and it turns out that the coach told him that Troy did not give him permission to allow Corey join them. When Corey asks his father why he will rob him of this chance, Troy is trying to tell him that Corey is rebellious and he's lying, quitting his job, he's not doing his chores. Feeling upset, Corey tells Troy that he's just scared that Corey will end up being a better sports player than him, to which Troy replies, "That's strike one." So that's what Corey feels. Corey feels that his father is bitter, that he might be better than him. And then we're now introduced to Act 2. Act 2. So Act 2, Scene 1, Troy is having an affair with a woman called Alberta, and she's expecting his child. So it is this act we now hear of the affair between Troy and Alberta. Troy then tells Rose the truth about the affair and spills the shocking news that his mistress is pregnant with his child, and Rose is in a state of shock because they have another argument about this affair. She is really upset with him that she has been faithful to him, and yet he is being the way he was. And then Troy was trying to be violent, and that was when Corey tries to save his mother from his violent father, and he hits his father. And then because of that, Troy tells him, "Strike 2. Protecting my own mother." You're protecting your own mother from being beaten by your father, and your father is seeing it as strike 2. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So, Act 2, Scene 2, 6 months later. Act 2, Scene 2, we are saying 6 months later, where Rose is expressing her grievance over the fact that Troy has been mentally detached from her. Troy has been mentally detached from her. And then it's also in this scene that we learn that Gabriel has been placed in a mental institution, and Troy stands to gain all the money from disability pay. So she's thinking that Troy put his brother there so he can be earning the money. It is why they are discussing that the hospital calls that Alberta has given birth to a baby girl, but she died shortly after. And then we're looking at Scene 3. In Scene 3, we are seeing that Troy decides to name the newborn baby Raynell. 3 days later, he brings Raynell to the house and begs Rose to please take care of her, as the baby is his own flesh and blood, no different than Corey or Leon. Rose agrees to take care of the baby Raynell, but she tells Troy that she will only be a mother to the child, but Troy will not have a wife anymore. So she detaches herself completely from Troy. And then in Scene 4, we're seeing 2 months later. 2 months later, Troy and Bono talk about their retirement. we talk about their retirement. And then 4 months later, we see that Troy is drunk and Corey comes into the yard and forgets to greet his father. They get into an argument, and then that was track 3. Troy tells Corey to leave his house, and Corey leaves and never returns. Corey leaves and never returns to the house. So we see the final scene in Act 2. 7 years later. 7 years later, Troy's life has come to an end. He is dead. Corey comes home from the US Marines and meets Raynell, who does not recognize him because she was a baby when he left. Rose and Corey have a sad reunion as they have not seen each other in a very long time. Bono and Leon are also present for the funeral. Leon and Corey talk about how their lives have been. Leon decided to divorce his wife. On the other hand, Corey is preparing to get married and is even considering taking a job with the Marines. Leon also says that he has recently been put in jail for theft and he is still playing music. Corey tells Rose that he doesn't want to attend Troy's funeral and he wants to get rid of him and his memory for good. Rose is disappointed and tells him that no matter what, he is your father. And then after that, we see that Raynell and Corey sing a song that they both learned from Troy, and realizing that Raynell is a good person, he now decides to attend the funeral. So when Gabriel arrives, we see that Gabriel says that it's time for St. Peter to open the gates of heaven for Troy. Remember, he said it that he read a part where Troy's name was mentioned in a book in St. Peter, where they were foreshadowing Troy's death. So to help Troy get into heaven, he plays the trumpet, but he fails. And at the third try, he dances and howls, begging the gates of heaven to open so that Troy can go into heaven. That is the plot of this wonderful play, Fences, by August Wilson. So let us look at our evaluation. What was Troy and Bono's occupation? Describe the issue that arose between Troy and his son Corey. So my lovely students, we've come to the end of our lovely class where we've analyzed the play Fences by August Wilson. In our next class, we're going to be looking at the themes and the style. So until then, it's bye for now.